It depends on the way you look at it. Going on the street started this year, but Occupy Nigeria started long before then. Young Nigerians on Twitter especially were talking about, they were disgruntled about the activities of the government, the spending, and people kept informing themselves and sharing information based on the budget. 200 million naira to water the garden of the presidency, 3 million naira for medicals every day, 800,000 naira for refreshments. I mean, over the months in 2011, we shared these things, and young Nigerians started getting angry, which was the essence of sharing these things. A lot of people's Twitter handles were sharing these things, and it caught on. So the next thing was, because of the history of Occupy across the world, Occupy New York, Washington, all over the place. So young people were like, let's occupy. Others were like, no, Nigerians cannot do it, we should not occupy. I saw interviews by people that even came out this year, some of them even claiming to be the ones that started Occupy Nigeria, that said, we cannot do it. These were the people that were saying we couldn't do it. Others were saying, let's do it. I personally started Why We Occupy as a Twitter hashtag, and I was explaining why we should occupy. And eventually, for the first time in Nigeria, I delivered a lecture. That was the first time Occupy Nigeria was delivered as a lecture in Nigeria in October at Public Integrity Networks program in Abuja, why we should occupy. And I spoke extensively on how we go about it, our demands and everything. It was published on omojuwa.com, it was published on Why Naija, and some other blogs published it. So essentially the mass movement was being built from last year, because the truth of the matter is people don't just go out. You have to push. It's like a digging for engineering. You dig and dig and dig, nothing comes out, but something happens, you get a gusher and the effect comes out. So the gusher we got was the president, the federal government removing subsidy, which brought us out eventually on the 2nd of January. But Occupy Nigeria started before then. It started in 2011.
I spoke with Peter Esele, the TUC president, and one of his complaints was that young Nigerians think they have the power of organization. They did not collaborate with Trade Union Congress and the NLC, and that's probably why the protest movement is going to collapse.
They did not collaborate with the TUC. Thank God we did not collaborate. If we had collaborated, we would have been in the same shoes with Peter Esele and the likes. People would be saying we sold out and all of those things. I'd rather be seen as having failed at something sincerely than be seen with the likes of Esele having failed in terms of being bought out. Whether they were bought or not is not even the question. The question is people are seeing them as having sold out. So I'm really glad we did not collaborate with them. And then secondly, Occupy Nigeria and the whole movement is in a process. It is not an end in itself. It's a process toward reawakening and re-engineering Nigeria. So even though we have left the street, the truth of the matter is we have not left the dream, we have not left the desire and the pursuit of a great Nigeria.
Of course, there was a great collaboration. Different groups, Enough is Enough, groups in the diaspora, everybody coming together. It's a protest movement with no leadership.
Yeah, with no leadership, because unlike every other movement in Nigeria, Occupy Nigeria is Nigerian. It's a Nigerian air, and when it comes to Nigerian air, it's not something you aggregate, it's not something you can subsidize. It's free. Anybody can join in the energy, can join, move through the arc and express themselves. When you talk about leadership, what are you talking about? You think you would expect somebody to say he is the leader, he is the president of Occupy Nigeria, but that would defeat the purpose, because it's about the people. It's essentially about the people. There is an order of information that people know where to get the information with respect to Occupy Nigeria comes from. For instance, if somebody from anywhere just says he's speaking on behalf of Occupy Nigeria, a lot of people would not believe the person, but I know some other people that will speak in terms of Occupy Nigeria, and people would listen. But it's not enough for anybody to come out and say, I'm the leader of Occupy Nigeria. All of us are just members of Occupy Nigeria, and that's, for me, it's enough to drive the revolution.
And there's that blackmail that this is a protest movement sponsored by politicians and opponents of this government. That's
the most stupid thing anybody will say. It's either the person is ignorant, stupid, or both of them combined. You don't push somebody to the wall and not expect a reaction. You don't pour water on the ground and not see a wet ground. When you throw something up, it comes down. It's a cause and effect thing. Nigerians have been pushed to the wall. Nigerians have been massively raped. Nigerians have been deprived of the basic means of livelihoods, to the extent that the natural things, the normal things the government is supposed to provide are being called palliatives. What do you expect? You expect a reaction. And where you have past members of the past public servants joining the struggle, you don't use that as an excuse to call a legitimate aspiration of the people as being backed by money. How many people could have sponsored some 1 million people in Lagos? How many people could have sponsored hundreds of thousands of people in Abuja? Even the money of the federal government is not enough. Even Jonathan's 1 billion naira budget is not enough to feed them. So that's just the truth. It's a Nigerian thing by the Nigerian people, not sponsored by anybody. I spent my own personal money to run this thing. I didn't collect a dime from any public politician. Whoever said he paid me should come out and prove it.
And right now, we have the House investigation on fuel subsidy and what have you. Are young people represented? Do they monitor the events there?
Young people are very well represented. About a week ago, I was there and I was tweeting proceedings from the committee, and one of the proceedings where I don't want to call the name. If you want me to call the name, I'll call the name.
Please do.
Capital Oil, yeah. Their presentation, one of the proceedings actually showed that they had reported in excess of 150 million liters. And I also said, I used the hashtag for subsidy probe that even from this particular proceeding, it's enough to arrest these guys and not make them go home. So you are represented as Occupy Nigeria at the proceedings, and a lot of people are monitoring it via news, via social media, via conventional news media, and we are also in touch with the leadership of the committee. We've heard some bad things about that committee. We'd rather give them a benefit of the doubt. When it becomes difficult to reach to them and make them tell us what's happening, then we begin to distrust them.
When will young people stop agitating and start participating in the political process? Join political parties, labor movement, and whatever.
No, like you said, like you called, it's a political process, and I think the process has started. I said before that Occupy Nigeria was not a revolutionary change of government. It's a reawakening or an awakening of the Nigerian people. Until now, Nigerians did not used to care, but now they do. In all through January, and I believe throughout this year, the kind of music that will come out and become popular in Nigeria will be conscious music. When you look at social media, the most popular people at the moment are people that are talking about conscious Nigerian politics things. So it's a process and it is evolving, and I believe that Nigerians will start getting involved in the process. Young people especially will start getting involved in the process of governance in Nigeria. For me, the future is here and the future is now. Because unlike before, when we were disconnected from leadership, when we were disconnected from the way we were being ruled, now we can actually take direct participation. We can actually be direct partners with government via civil societies, via social media, via every form of medium. Because unlike before, wherever you are, we saw what Nigerians did in New York. They directly influence what happens in Nigeria when they stopped a meeting by the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs. Wherever you are as a Nigerian, anywhere in the world, you can directly affect how governance goes. We're in the process of, for instance, looking at the 2012 budget, presenting a better budget, far better than we have now. We're in the process of also presenting a policy on the kind of salaries our leaders, I'm calling them leaders based on the future, not based on what we have now, because right now we have rulers. So essentially, it depends on us. It does not depend on them. Nobody in the world will give you leadership. You have to take it, and sometimes you might have to take it by force. And we're in the process of doing it the natural way. But the truth is, like I said about cause and effect, where you don't allow the natural way to happen, something else happens, and something has to give. Going forward, Nigerians must realize that we have to remove sentiment in our way of doing things. When Martin Luther King said he dreamt about black men becoming the leaders of America, he was not talking about because of their skin. He was talking about in spite of their skin. To have leaders in our country, it should not be because of where they come from. It should not be because of their religion. It should be in spite of those things. For instance, if you are going to vote a minority as president, it should not be because the person is a minority. It should be in spite of the person's origin, but because of the person's competence and ability. As a people, we must begin to look at these things. And personally, I believe in the Nigerian dream. I believe in our desire for a better Nigeria. If I don't, I won't be doing this. And I know that with time, the process of our governance, the process of our leadership and our polity will be improved and it will be better.